Hey, welcome back to the channel. We are back at Yogi's Garage, and if you haven't been following along in my shorts, I am in a new official Yogi's Garage location here, located inside of the Shop Club Houston, right north of Willowbrook Mall. It is a fabulous place to store your cars, and they had an opening for me, and I took it. And now I'm working on some of the coolest cars you can imagine. Take a look at some of these videos of me walking around the shop, and you'll see that there are just so many different options, from American to German to Italian, you name it. There's a car that I can wrench on here. And I have some really exciting projects coming up for Yogi's Garage for this next chapter of my channel. And I really hope that you guys tag along and see what kind of cool things that I'm gonna get into. Case in point, I have two big projects coming up. One for a Porsche 928, and then another one for a special reveal that I'm gonna do later in this video. But why is this car here if I work on exotics? Well, if you're new to my channel, welcome. I've been doing this since the beginning of the pandemic, and this was my very first project car. It's a 2007 Audi A4 that had 120,000 miles on it. Ended up having a bad catalytic converter, and the cylinder head suffered from oil starvation because of a clogged oil pickup. For you Audi owners out there, you're probably not in your heads knowing, yep, that's a very common issue with this one. Well, it destroyed the cylinder head, so I decided to rebuild the whole engine from the crank up. So what you're looking at here is a car that now has 23,000 miles on a new engine that I built myself, not a single leak. It's running great, and now I'm gonna turn this over to my daughter, who's my third and final child. And this car has been in the family long enough to see my oldest, my middle, and now my youngest child get to drive Olaf around the city. So there's a few things that I need to do. One in particular is the clock spring. So the clock spring is responsible for controlling your turn signal, as well as maintaining electricity to all of the controls that are on your steering wheel. So the clock spring maintains electrical contact while you're turning the wheel without tangling wires. That's the whole purpose of that. So the clock spring on here is broken because the turn signals are not going back to neutral when you complete your turn. Very annoying. It's got to be resolved. The other issue is with the vent. When I first built this car, I wanted to make sure that it had an oil pressure gauge, because that was one of the things that was grossly missed by Audi, in my opinion, to not have a way of measuring your oil pressure. Well, I had that. The gauge broke from glow shift. So now I just want to put it back to stock for my daughter. I know the oil pressure is great in this car. I don't need to worry about that. I upgraded the pickup to the new 2 ports. So if one gets clogged up, the other one will make up for it. So we're good there. And another few things, it's got a bad shimmy at 60, so I'll be sure to handle all of that, because you don't want to give your last child a car that you don't feel comfortable driving yourself. So let's go ahead and take care of that. But first, let me give you a tour of the shop club, and you guys can see how freaking lucky I am. Special thanks to the Shop Club Houston for allowing me to work here, as well as Marshall from Garage Time TV. He has his own channel, and he is standing right there, off camera. Come say hello.
I happen to be off camera. And I heard my name, I was like, he's talking about me.
He's talking good promo, man.
Absolutely, it's good to see you, man.
Yeah, good to see you.
We're happy to have this guy. He does great work here, as you guys all know from watching the channel. We love having him here. So.
That's right. I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, man. But I'm gonna let you do it.
Okay, thank you. All right, so with that, let's get to work on this car, but let's take a quick tour of the shop. Let's fix it. Yeah, so here it is. I have my own dedicated spot here. I have my own dedicated lift, room for multiple cars, and I'll show you what I'm working on right now. But this is a dream come true, man. I'm gonna make this into something really special. I have so many cars that I can work on, and here they are. Look, check this out. Isn't this crazy? If you're from Houston, this used to be the old Academy Sports and Outdoors here by Willowbrook Mall, which is in the north part of Houston. And it was gutted out and repurposed for this. I believe it was also a bouncy house before it was this, so it went from Academy to a bouncy house to car storage. But yeah, so these are some of the ones that I'm working on. And if you've been watching my shorts, then you know I've been recording videos on these beautiful cars here. You got a Ferrari Dino, or just a Dino, since it's not really a Ferrari. You got an E-Type, you've got another Ferrari, just all of these. Look at this Mustang. And some of these I've already seen the inside of Yogi's garage. I've had to resolve a few things for these cars. The Viper over there, as well as the Ferrari 360 Spider that was in my shop last week for air conditioning issues. So that's what's going on. That's what I have, and I'm truly fortunate to be working here. It's a great team, it's a great shop. The weather's nice, and I often tell my customers, the owners of these awesome cars, is that I'm sorry, but I'm gonna get your car dirty. You're not gonna get me dirty because these cars are not dailies, most of them anyway. And so they're oftentimes in pristine condition. So me touching them, I'm getting my little grubby fingers all over them. But that's what's going on here at Yogi's Garage. So be sure to check me out more often. I'm gonna have new cars. And here's a couple of sneak peeks on what I'm gonna be working on at Yogi's Garage. First up, Project Risky Business. Yes, this is a 1983 Porsche 928S Euro Spec Edition. It has a 4.7 liter V8 in there that produced about 300 plus horsepower. Well, right now it's not producing any horsepower because it has a bad cylinder head. I believe the gasket has failed on the passenger side because I'm getting leaked through on my leak down test on cylinders 3 and 4. So I'm gonna rescue this car. This is the very first project here at my new shop, so I'm really excited. Project Risky Business, stay tuned. Now here's something you don't see every day. You're probably asking yourself, what in the world is this? Well, let me give you a hint. Yeah, Lamborghini. This is a 1972 Lamborghini Jarama, or Jarama, however you want to pronounce it. It's basically shared the same platform as the Lamborghini Espada. Only about 318 of these were ever made. The S model of this, which is this one, only about 100 and some change were ever made. And you know what's in there? Something huge. Check it out. Oh my goodness. Look at that. That is a V12. And if you're rubbing your eyes and wondering what you're looking at there, those are Weber carburetors. And there's 3 and 3 more. So yeah, there's a lot of carburetors on this thing. And this thing has a confirmed blown cylinder head. So this engine's got to come out, and that's going to be fun. That big old contraption right there is your fuel pump. That tube there is the fuel rail. Look at that. This thing pumps gas into this big monstrous engine. Only in the 70s, man, could you get away with something like this, right before the oil boom, the oil crash, I should say. Let's take a look at the inside. I mean, this is, and you can smell it, just smells like history, man. This is amazing. Amazing place to be. Check out the radio, the placement of the radio, the wood trim, leather interior, everything's leather. The door handles are leather. I mean, it's just spectacular. This car was handmade, and they only produced, I believe, 40 a year for a total production run over 8 years of about 300 and some change. So, extremely rare car. And I have the fortune of getting this beautiful historical car back on the road. So I want you to keep that in mind when you're surfing through YouTube and you land on this blue car on Yogi's Garage. You're looking at something pretty special here. So that's what's going on here at the shop. Everything is turning up roses. I'm really excited. I need to get to work on this Audi so I can get it out of here. So let's work on this clock spring. You ready? Let's fix it. So obviously, first things first is you need to get the power out of the car. So you need to disconnect the battery. Let the car sit for about 15 minutes so it discharges whatever electricity is stored up, because you do not want that airbag to have any voltage going through it, or you're gonna have a very, very bad day. All right? You're gonna need some tools. You're gonna need a T30 to get the airbag out. Then you're gonna need some specialty tools that I'll cover with you when we get there, but basically it's a triple square and a really small Torx screwdriver, a T8. So don't start the project until you have all the tools you need, because the last thing you need to do is to pull the wheel off and then you don't have the tool to go any further, right? So, and here's the other one that I'm gonna be removing too. This oil gauge was 3D printed a long time ago for me, and it needs to come out and be replaced because obviously it's all broken and the oil pressure gauge doesn't work anymore. So this is the inside. It's not bad. This car, when I bought it, had 140,000 miles on it. I rebuilt the engine, as you know, and now it's got 167,000 miles. So it has over 20,000 miles on this engine that I built. So I think I did a good job because it's still running and it's not leaking at all. All right, let's get to work. Okay, so we're inside Olaf here, and to get the airbag out, there's two T30s that come in this way right here, right? So you want to turn the wheel. Obviously, get your steering wheel lock turned off by turning the key over. Notice there's no power, so we're safe here. And turn the wheel about 90. You should use a pick or a screwdriver to just kind of gently go in there and pull the cover off of the screw hole. Here's one. And if I did this right, it's a T30. And they come in at an angle. Let me see. Yeah, here it is. All right, so you should be able to see the angle that I'm going. I'm on the outside of the car, and they're not very tight, so you don't need to go muscling it, right? So get that loose and then finish it up and do the other side, and then we'll pull the airbag. All right, the airbag's been pulled. Those bolts won't come out, by the way. And what you'll notice is this thing is a two-stage. There's two connections here. So this is the newer model version of an airbag. And you can disconnect it from down here, but what I've learned is that if you pull it from this connector here, with the big purple lock switch, you disengage the lock by pulling it towards you, and you see it comes right out. It's just a little spring loaded. And then this side comes out as well. And there. You have successfully taken out an airbag without blowing your face off. Congratulations. All right, so with the airbag out, you got to remove this M12 bolt here. Be sure to put Loctite back on it when you put it in there. Just a little bit. It keeps the bolt from backing out, you know. Okay, and then before you pull this, you need to make sure that you line up with the splines again when you put it back on. So somebody already put a mark there. I'm not using that one. I'm using this one here, and then I followed it up with a mechanic's pick to get that tooth exactly where it's supposed to go, because there's a ton of little tiny teeth, so you can easily miss it, right? So make sure you mark it before you pull the wheel, and then you should be able to just take it off at that point. All right, so in order to get this cowl cover off here, you've got to remove the lower kick panel. So there's a bolt on the inside of this fuse panel here, and then there's two underneath, and they feel like they're either M10s or M8s. And then that'll lower this down, and there's a few other bolts that you need to get off in order to get the top half of the cowl off. So let me knock this out. We'll get this panel down, and then I'll bring you back in. All right, so there's your bolt right there. And I'm gonna go ahead and pull this thing out because it's pretty much shot. And there's only one little electrical connection here. And then the rest of them are the wires to the sensor here, which, as I mentioned, don't work anymore. By the way, this was, who made this? Glow Yeah, so Glow Shift made this, and it broke. All right, so I've got the 3 screws out. I've already taken the vent out because, like I said, I'm going to replace that. Now, here's where you need to make sure you have the right size tool here, right? So this is the T8 Torx, but it needs to be a really thin, long screwdriver, and this is why. Look, you see? It goes all the way up into here to unscrew this teeny tiny little screw in here. Let's see if it'll come out. There. See? Little tiny one. And there's another screw underneath this lever, I think. Another bolt here. So let me get under it and find it. All right, it's an M4, and it's right here. All right. Then, of course, there's the rubber fitting here around the ignition. All right, so I've got this panel out now, and I believe that, you know, I'm just gonna leave it here. I don't think I need to pull it out, because all I gotta do is get this thing off, right? And get to this is the clock spring, so I just gotta get that off. So the reason why you need to take it off is because there are 2 screws right here that hold this silver trim in, but it also holds the upper cowl on, which I don't even think I need to take off, really, to get the clock spring completely out. All right, because it's just clipped in. And the lower one, too. So here's the rubber fitting that protects the ignition. So you can see this is the replacement, and it's loaded, meaning that it has a spring load here that you pull out once it's finally in place. But Audi's pretty cool in the sense that they already give you a lock, because sometimes clock springs aren't this fancy. A lot of times they'll become unwound if you're not careful, and I think that's probably what this is for here, is this presses down that button so it will rotate. You can't unwind it here, so it's locked it in place. So the clips that we're talking about here are these right here, as you can see, that need to come off. 1, 2, 3, and then this thing will come right out. And it shouldn't take a whole lot of force to get this out, see? And I'm taking a mental snapshot of where the orientation is on this thing too, for what it's worth. And since this thing is broken, you know, you really don't have to be that fragile with it, because you're not putting it back in. There we go. Just came right out. Okay, let's put the new one in. All right, so I removed the lower cowl altogether so I could lock the steering column in the down position, which then, as you can see, gives me perfect access to everything that I need to get this thing connected. Let's see, you go like this? Yeah, you do. Okay, good. You just line it up. Each one of the dowels will go into the alignment hole, and then lock it in. And there, we're locked in. All right, now that that's locked in, I'm gonna go ahead and pull this. Yeah, so this just breaks off. It's meant to be broken off. That frees up the little spring. Now that that's all in place and we're all plugged in, we can get the wheel back on exactly the way it needs to go. All right, so you got the mark and the mark. You want these holes to line up. Okay. That is exactly where I had it. There's the little mark. Now I'm going to screw it back in. And just a dab will do it.
This thing was old. It's clogged up. You don't need that much, folks. Let me just clean some of this off. Okay. We'll torque that in and get the airbag in. There we go. These bolts are weird, so you gotta just find it and then drive it home. There. Okay. That's pretty much all back together. I've got to put the little screw hole covers back on, and then we'll test it out. All right, last but certainly not least is the air vent. And luckily this thing just clips in the right direction. And there you go, man. Back to normal.